What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, hosting the Behind the Bench Podcast Network channel. Giving a shout out to the rest of the crew: Shad, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right. For everyone who's tuning in, thank you for supporting Behind the Bench. Subscribe to the channel, help make the show the best that it can be. And I just want to take a couple minutes, man. You know, I love the NBA, man. I really do. I mean, I love all the sports leagues, man. I really, I enjoy the football playoffs, man, and baseball. I think baseball playoffs, it has a mystique that is unsurpassed by the other sports leagues. There's a mystique about it, man. It's second to none. But what I want to talk about real quick, man, with these past coming up on 7 years, there's been this insinuation that the Los Angeles Lakers has always been a win now organization, and they've always pillared players from other teams to win championships. And now, that's true though, only applying to these past 7 years. Not when you peel back the layers and really study the history of this franchise. And I think the issue is there's been so much player turnover over the past 7 years. And this is why I say when all this started, when they brought the Hurricane to the team, the history of the franchise was going to be misrepresented right then and there at the snap of a finger. And of course, the future was already, tapped out. So, there's been so much player turnover since the summer 2018. I can see why it's easy to believe that about the Laker franchise. But when you really peel back, man, it's really the first thing from the truth. Now, let's start first things first. The staple position of the Lakers franchise has been the center position. Because, of course, the center was the dominant position in basketball. During its inception, really, tell you the truth, through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, especially, the 80s and 90s. I mean, you talking about, that was the deepest era of great centers this league has ever seen. From the 80s up until like the 90s. You know what I mean? And then you start seeing hybrid, players, like power forwards and combination of power forwards and centers. But I'm talking about like bona fide, full-fledged centers. That's what the league was built on, starting out. And the only exception to that was during the Michael Jordan years, where, he proved that you can build a championship team around a non-center and win, But let's just delve back into this, man. The staple position was the center position. Start off with George Mikan with the Minneapolis Lakers when the team was in Minnesota. Start off in Minnesota when he led the franchise to 5 championships. I think it was like 1952, 1953, and then like from 55 to 57, somewhere around that time, that range. But nonetheless, 5-time champion. And I forgot until I came across someone's video recently that he was the commissioner of the, I think that was the Basketball Association of America. Yeah, the Basketball Association of America, and then the National Basketball League. Those two leagues merged to become the NBA. I believe that's how it started out. I think it was called the Basketball Association of America. I think that's what it was called. But he was the commissioner, and he came. Actually, I believe he popularized the red, white, blue ball that became a fixture for the ABA, American Basketball Association. But nonetheless, he was the first dominant center, the first superstar. And then, of course, Will Chamberlain. The Lakers acquired him via trade in 1968-69 season because they was always uh, in a disadvantage when the Lakers, Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, had to go up against Boston in the finals. So that's why they got Will Chamberlain. But he was a final piece. He was not traded by gutting out the roster. He was a final piece to the puzzle. And they won a championship with him in 1972 when they set the then record, 69 wins and only 13 losses, 33 straight wins, which is still unsurpassed in professional team sports. And he retired in 1974. And then the Lakers traded for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar from the Milwaukee Bucks after he played like 5 seasons there. And that was like a reboot, an investment for the future. It wasn't a win-now scenario. And they traded for him a year after, Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor had long retired. Okay, so when they got Kareem, it was also a situation where there was something of concern that was occurring in the city of Milwaukee at that time that led Kareem to request that trade. It wasn't just about, wanting to, go on a team that's going to win immediately. It really had nothing to do with that. But nonetheless, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he only played for 2 teams his whole career, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Los Angeles Lakers. He wasn't going from team to team. Okay? Now think about this now. The biggest free agent, the most successful free agent that this franchise ever signed, it's not the Hurricane, it's Shaquille O'Neal in 1996. And they signed him to an 8-year contract. Right? But the thing is, when they signed Shaquille O'Neal, would clinch the deal with Jerry West and convince Shaquille O'Neal to sign with the Lakers after playing his first 4 years with the Orlando Magic, after coming off a conference final defeat to the Chicago Bulls in '96. He showed a workout video of Kobe Bryant. Because remember, the draft comes before free agency. So when Shaq saw that workout video of Kobe, that's what sealed the deal. But the previous 2 years after the Lakers started over from the Showtime era, it took them about 2-3 years to reestablish themselves and to become a legitimate playoff team. The Lakers were a playoff team before they signed Shaq. Because they was coming off of Magic Johnson's return to the NBA, which he finally retired in '96. And they lost to Houston in the first round. But really, it was the previous year where you knew that the Lakers were slowly on their way back when Nick Van Exel, Eddie Jones, and Anthony Pillar and whatnot, they led the Lakers to a second round appearance in the playoffs. Okay. And then Andrew Bynum, another big man. Oh, I forgot about Vlade Divac. Let me go back. Vlade Divac. They drafted him the offseason right after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar retired in 1989. They drafted Vlade Divac from Yugoslavia. And that was the beginning of that international, like that Eastern European wave of NBA players. And in the second year, he was our starting center when we went advanced to the finals, upsetting the Portland Trail Blazers to advance to the finals before losing to the Chicago Bulls for the championship. He was drafted along with Eldon Campbell. Eldon Campbell was like a power forward slash center, but nonetheless we drafted him I believe that was out of Clemson in 80. I guess that was 89. Yeah, so I think we drafted both those guys, Vlade Divac and Eldon Campbell. But we'll just say Vlade Divac because he was our bona fide center. And of course, he was traded to obtain draft rights to bring in Kobe Bryant. Okay. The next big man that you can say that was a fixture of the Lakers was Andrew Bynum. Andrew Bynum was the youngest player ever to be drafted to the NBA. I think he was like a couple months younger than what Kobe Bryant was and LeBron James were, because both of them was also drafted at 18, but like Bynum darn near just had turned 18 when he was drafted, and then a couple years later, that's when they started the one and done rule to eliminate that, which was that was a great decision by the league, to tell you the truth. But nonetheless, Andrew Bynum was drafted in 2005, a year after the Lakers had traded Shaquille O'Neal to the Miami Heat. And then Bynum started to emerge by his third year in the league. He started to emerge as a player. And then, unfortunately, he started suffering the knee injuries that curtailed his career later on. But if he had been healthy, Bynum would have been a legitimate all-star level center in his own right. Okay. So, Paul Gasol, he was acquired via trade. But when we traded him, we was already proven to be a major playoff contender. We was in first place in the Pacific Division with one of the best records in the Western Conference when we traded for Paul Gasol. We didn't gut the whole thing out to bring in Paul Gasol. He was a final piece. We was in year 4 of our rebuild after Shaquille O'Neal was traded in an effort led by Kobe Bean Bryant. And then year 5, we reached the mountaintop again and won the championship, and then went back to back in 2009, 2010. Okay. So I'm showing a pattern of, yes, every organization has made key trades along the way to win championships, but the cornerstones are the predominant roster consisted of natural, like original drafted players. Okay, and then of course, during this past 6 years, they mortgaged the future to bring in Anthony Davis. They did that for the Hurricane. So remember, the first year with the Hurricane on the team, they didn't even make the playoffs. They didn't even finish 500 record. They didn't even finish with a winning season. They missed the playoffs with a losing record of 37-45, which is only 2 games more than the previous year, led by the young core who had improved as a unit 20 games over 2 years, which is phenomenal considering, you're predominantly relying on one and done players, 19-year-olds coming in, starting right away. Not learning coming off the bench, but starting right away in the Western Conference with prime Golden State and prime KD, Kevin Durant. Defending champions, by the way. So Anthony Davis is already gone. Just think about this. They were saying, AD and the Hurricane was going to surpass Kobe and Shaq. I never believed that. And it's not about AD. It's about the other guy as to why I reached that conclusion. So AD is gone. It's almost like he wasn't here, man. It's almost like he wasn't here. But outside of the staple position, here, check out the names of the cornerstone players who contributed to major success in the championships, ultimately championship. Or at least during the 60s, they went to like 5 finals in the 60s. Only to lose to the Boston Celtics. I think they played them 6 times in the 60s. Right? If I'm not mistaken. Before they matched up again in 1984. So I think the Lakers lost their first 7 championship matches to Boston before finally beating them in 1985. Listen to the names. Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Gail Goodrich. That's 3 cornerstones right there. Even like a Tommy Hawkins, right? Original Laker during the 60s. Okay. Then in the 70s. Now they did acquire Jamal Wilkes from the Golden State Warriors, who I believe he was on the championship team with Rick Barry, when Rick Barry led them to an upset title in 1975. But check out these names. Norm Nixon, Michael Cooper, Magic Johnson, Kurt Rambis, Byron Scott, AC Green. Then we can even talk about the backups, man, like a Milt Wagner coming out of Louisville, won a national championship. David Rivers, who they drafted in 1989 as the top point guard in the nation coming out of University of Notre Dame. They drafted him to groom him to be, possibly be Magic Johnson's successor at point guard. That's how much pedigree he had entering the NBA. Well, listen to them names. Them names right there I just rolled off is a greater number than the centers who the Lakers acquired through either trade or free agency. So Mikan is an original Laker. Bynum is an original Laker, right? That's two centers right there. Now Kareem essentially played his outside. He played the majority of his career with the Lakers, 15 years. You know what I'm saying? Where he's considered a Laker, you know. But if you look at the franchise, when they started over again, after Showtime ended, they did bring in Cedric Ceballos, I believe I believe he was with the Phoenix Suns, I believe. And he did make an all-star. But he was considered like a bridge player, not someone that was going to have a long-standing presence with the team, right? But they started over through the draft. Eddie Jones, a junior out of the University of Temple, who had reached the Final Eight with John Chaney as the head coach. Eddie Jones was a baller, man. He was a beast. A two-time All-Star with the Lakers. Nick Van Exel out of the University of Cincinnati, coached by Bob Huggins, went to the Final Four back in 1993. George Lynch, University of North Carolina, coming off a national championship, Dean Smith, who beat University of Michigan in the title game. And then Anthony Peeler, who was one of the best collegiate players in the nation, come out of the University of Missouri. Okay, you had those four players along with young veterans, Vlade Divac, Eldon Campbell. And they did, like I said, they had a Cedric Ceballos and then like a Corey Blunt, who was like a backup. But nonetheless, they became a playoff team through the draft. They was winning 50 games, 50 plus games, right? Okay. Then you bring in Shaq, you bring in Kobe, Derek Fisher, original Laker, Kobe Bryant, lifelong Laker, right? Derek Fisher hit probably the greatest shot in postseason history, .4, back in 2004. He was drafted. Okay, and then as they started to build the next championship run, was started in 2000. Okay, they did bring in Robert Horry via trade, but he was he was more probably like a 4-year veteran when they brought him in, right? Okay, and then Rick Fox, I believe we brought him in as a free agent from the Boston Celtics. Okay, but they started off as backups. Right? And then when the Lakers won their first championship with Kobe and Shaq, they brought back AC Green to play the power forward. AC Green is the original Laker. You see what I'm saying? And then, okay, they made some key moves along the way. They brought in Glenn Rice from the Charlotte Hornets. But the engine that drove the Lake Show was Kobe and Shaq. And once Kobe emerged as the player that we remember him for, you know, because he had to go through that development stage, you know, because back then, coaches didn't play high schoolers right away as starters. They had to kind of come off the bench. You know what I'm saying? So otherwise, Kobe probably been averaging 20 starting out. But nonetheless, in his fourth year, as he ascended as a full-fledged, like closer, facilitator, that's when the Lakers took off and started winning a championship. And then they were still drafting players into the mix. Devin George, you know, and then Luke Walton. Luke Walton's part of the championship team of 2009, 2010. And then when Shaq got traded to Miami, the Lakers started over again. But they honestly, when there was a lot of pressure for the front office to make an immediate move, bring an immediate star like a Jason Kidd or Kevin Garnett, looking back on it, they actually did the right thing. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes, man, we got to look back and just look at how things unfold. They said, we're going to see this through. Now, they may have been complacent initially after trading Shaq, just trying to come up with, okay, how can we do this? And then I think once they came up with the formula, then they started to implement it. And then they drafted Jordan Farmore, Sasha Vujacic. Okay, like I said, you had Luke Walton. You know, there was the carryover from the Kobe Shaq years. Okay, all right. Then next thing you know, here come Bynum, remember? They become cornerstone. Kobe was in his prime. And then, okay, we did acquire Lamar Odom in that Shaq trade. But that was the only player really from that Shaq trade that stuck and became a permanent fixture of the team for the next, what I guess about 7 years, 7 years. Okay. So when you look at it, the majority of the players, I'm talking about the cornerstones, I'm talking about the ones who played long-standing years for the team, who contributed to the franchise success, were they own original drafted players. So this misnomer that the Lakers have relied on outside players all the time to win. Okay, here and there, okay, you make a move like San Antonio did the same thing. They brought in players mainly like as reserves. You know what I'm saying? To give you key minutes. Like they did that during the Showtime. They had Bob McAdoo. And outside of McAdoo, I mean, the next play, that was in the early 80s. But the next player who they brought in to be a contributor to the team was Michael Thompson. And he was mainly brought in to rebound, not to score a whole lot of points. So when you study the franchise, man, it's been represented to such a degree over the past 7 years. What fans going to find is, man, that this franchise invested in their future. They didn't take away. They didn't give up a boatload of draft picks. Now, the Paul Gasol deal, they did give up two first round picks, but a final piece of the puzzle, you was already a contender when you got Paul Gasol. So you didn't have to give up Odom, you didn't have to give up Derek Fisher or Bynum. You know what I'm saying? Because you had leverage you could sit there and say, okay, we're only one piece away. You know what I'm saying? That's not what's been going on these past 6-7 years. When you give up a whole roster, drafting young talent, the deepest in the league, and I'm not trying to harp on this because quite honestly, when all this is over, man, once they remove themselves from that guy, and the franchise can move forward, man, I can be cool. I'll be so elated and thrilled that I got my team back, man. Because think about this, man. They told the basketball world that Anthony Davis. And this is not about AD, but nonetheless that he and the Hurricanes were going to basically rack off 3 championships, man. But that's not Kobe and Shaq out there, because Kobe and Shaq was not a win now thing. That was a built up process. They had to go through playoff defeat, the Utah and then San Antonio, and then they broke through in 2000 and racked off 3 straight. You see what I'm saying? You can't really expect the team to go 4 straight. So when we lost to the Spurs in 2003, man, that was kind of like, I was like, wow, man, we achieved a heck of a lot. Congratulations to San Antonio. We'll be back. You see what I'm saying? So what's been going on, man, now it's like AD was never part of the team. Now you got another, like I said, Luka Doncic, man, he's a hell of a player. But the problem is, man, the style of play is always going to be dictated by that guy. And all these years, man, all this chaos, everywhere he go, you got to make all these moves, man. Everywhere he go. Even in Miami, man. Even in Miami, they had to take pay cuts to sign so they can have enough cap space to fill out the rest of the roster. So after them 3 guys, you had Mario Chalmers, who they drafted, and who was on their team, and Adonis Haslam. You had to fill out the rest of the roster. So a 15-man roster, I think maybe Juwan Howard too. So you're talking about at least 9 players you got to sign to fill out the roster. So what I'm saying is, man, because of the situation, the franchise history has been misrepresented. I just want to take the time to show that this franchise invested. That's why Jerry Buss was so successful. He didn't get Magic Johnson on the humbug. That was an investment because of a trade that took place 3 years prior in 1976 with Gail Goodrich, who was traded to I believe at that time, the New Orleans Jazz. I think maybe after they had just relocated to Utah, but nonetheless, in return, they got a compensatory first-round pick, which they wind up using in position to draft Magic Johnson. Same thing how they got James Worthy. They acquired a draft pick 3 years prior. You see what I'm saying? They put them in position based on they got that their pick from the Cleveland Cavaliers in 1979, and based on where they finished in the 82 season, that will be where the Lakers would be able to draft that year. And Cleveland finished with the worst record that year, and then they wound up getting James Worthy. They didn't have to give up anything to get. They didn't have to like trade players away to put themselves in a position to get James Worthy. That's what I'm saying, man. They invested in their team, and that's why Showtime rolled for so long. And they had, a Mount Rushmore player leading the way in Magic Johnson. That is not what's been going on now. And to show you that, even after they just acquired Luka Doncic, these talking heads are saying they still need to make moves. They still have holes on the roster. They need to get about 2, 3. They need to get shooters, defenders, and guards. But wait a minute, you got two playmakers on the team right now, right? Austin Reeves has been playmaking. That's what I'm saying, man. It's so chaotic. Even if you bring in Luka's a top 5 player, could be top 3 when you really get cooking, but no worse than top 5. But they still saying they got holes. They got holes they got to plug. And that's why me personally, like I said, this is not about Luka. I'm a fan of Luka moving forward. It's the it's the best case scenario. But AD was never going to play his entire career, the rest of his career here, man. Once the well ran dry, and if they had to trade him to try to bring in somebody else, they was going to trade him. They're not going to trade the other guy. That's what they need to let go. But they're not going to do it. So I just want to give that breakdown of the Laker history, man. And it's been so misrepresented. It's frightening. But at the end of the day, outside of the central position, which has been a staple, ironically, what's crazy about it, they need a big man. But it's been historically a staple of the franchise. And like I said, they drafted their future center in 2016 in Ivica Zubac. And midway through his 3rd year, they traded him to the Los Angeles Clippers. You see how I'm getting at? So at the end of the day, outside of the center position, the majority of these cornerstone players that you see jerseys hanging up in the rafters, man, they were all original Lakers. And the Lakers always invested in their team from the 60s to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. And that's why they rolled the way they did. And that's why they won 10 championships from 1980 to 2010. It wasn't because they was snatching players from this team or that team or getting guys to request trades. Nope. The Lakers became the Lakers for a reason. That's right. So I just wanted to drop that gold nugget. Until next time, JB for BTB Behind the Bench.